LATD Nation. LATD Nation, what is good? Once again, we are back in here to give you the finale of our first annual LATD Spooktacular. And today we'll be looking at the details of
Scream 1996. My fault, bro. I mean, I watched that movie about twice already. You already know how this is a classic.
For sure. Yeah, this movie right here, man. What can be said about it that hasn't already been said?
Facts.
Very, very classic, highly influential, modern horror movie. I feel like this movie right here, low key, when it comes to Halloween costumes and just when we think about Halloween, I think this is one of the very first things that we think of. We think of Ghostface, the Mask, the Killer, who obviously throughout the franchise has assumed it's been different people to assume the same identity.
Right.
But
I don't know why, but okay.
For whatever reason. But yeah, no, like I think Ghostface now and just Scream has had a very indelible effect on hip hop. On hip hop, I'm tripping. I mean, yeah, true. But on just pop
well, I
culture,
mean, a Ghostface Killer,
yeah,
a rapper from Wu-Tang Clan, shout out.
True. Its influence and its impact is just so wide reaching. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like it's one of them things where it's like almost everybody now loves Scream. Like I feel like it was popular when we were young, but I feel like it's really like gone up as like because I feel like it's one of, if not the most common Halloween costume that you will see. Like I feel like people really, really love this character. They love this franchise, and for good reason, because with this movie, Wes Craven really directed a very, very competent, very smart, just very, I guess you could say, subversive sort of horror movie. Because what makes this movie great, just getting into the positives, I think it's just, I feel like Wes Craven knew, because by this point it was 1996, so this is, you know, well into the era of the Jason Voorhees and the Michael Myers and the Freddy Krueger. So by this point, I feel like horror, and most people say this, like reportedly at the time, horror was on a bit of a decline because the genre had been done to death with a bunch of sequels. Like you get Friday the 13th and then part 2, part 3. Halloween parts 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Facts.
And it's just like the franchise was in desperate need of kind of a new energy and a new sort of icon to kind of come in and revitalize it. And that's exactly what Scream did in 1996.
Oh, no, it definitely did, especially with the slasher genre of horror movies.
Yes, for sure. Most definitely. And I see why, because like I said, with Wes Craven, the thing I think stands really to make Scream its own identity and kind of its own thing is that, you know, him understanding that the landscape of horror was kind of on a decline and people kind of knew what to expect. He purposely wrote this movie and directed it in a way that it kind of makes fun of and sort of parodies the horror genre, but it's still a very competently directed and smartly done horror movie in its own right. He still knows how to build suspense. He still knows how to build a lot of just atmosphere, just chilling moments. There's a lot of gruesome, you know, kills throughout the movie, while also still being kind of funny and lighthearted in its own way.
Right. Most definitely. Like this movie for me, I expected to laugh more. You know what I'm saying? I didn't expect it to be as suspenseful as it was. Because after watching Scream 6, I was like, okay, this is cool, I guess. But I wasn't really scared by it. But this one was it wasn't really as much as scary. Well, no, it was actually scarier, if I'm being honest. It was a lot more serious than I thought it would. I took it a lot more seriously than I thought I would. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but I found out who the killer was. Well, killers, you know, spoilers. Yeah, who the killers were, like kind of like in the first 5 minutes though.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, for those of you who don't know, haven't seen Scream, it's about Sidney Prescott and the fictional town of Woodsboro.
Yeah, Woodsboro.
Yeah, that's right, Woodsboro. And basically, she's a high schooler that's living in this town that's being hit with this series of killings that's being referred to as the Ghostface killings.
Right.
Because of the mask that's being worn.
Right.
by the killer with each and every like kill. Like he is known to call his victims, toy with them, play with them a little bit via a voice changer.
You want to play a game?
Yeah, and he'll do trivia and things like that. And I think that's one of the things that made Ghostface so different is that I think whereas with Michael Myers and Jason, they don't really talk.
Yeah, they were just really just mindless killing machines. If we're being honest.
Yeah, they were just very tall, very imposing, and one-dimensional. But with Ghostface, he's unique in the fact that he's very talkative. He kind of is more of a psychological threat as opposed to being just a physical one. So I think that really did a lot to re-energize what a slasher villain could be. It kind of revolutionized it.
Most definitely. And Neve Campbell played Cindy Prescott. She did a fantastic job in this movie, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to see why this movie and her in particular is so iconic. And her, as well as Courtney Cox, it's really evident. Yeah, Courtney Cox is Gail, of course, the reporter.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really easy to see why this movie has become as iconic and these characters have become as enduring as they have. Because Sydney and Gail are some of the longest running and most enduring female horror protagonists. And for good reason. Great characters, great performances.
Another thing I'll say about this movie too is like, I do like the fact that they make Ghostface technically two people.
Yeah.
Instead of just one person. And it's like we said about Jason and Michael, like I said, it's just multiple, well done. Like it's crafty. They're crafty and everything. But I'm gonna be real. If this was me in real life, I would probably fold them.
You think so?
Like them jokers was tripping all over themselves. Like, bro.
I'm glad you mentioned that because one thing when I was taking my notes when I was watching the movie, one of the main things that I do like about Ghostface is that, as we stated before, Freddy, Michael, and Jason are portrayed as these very lumbering figures that are
unstoppable.
Unstoppable. Basically, they have no sense of humanity. They don't get. They're not fazed by any damage that they take or anything of that nature. What I really like about Ghostface is you can throw hands with Ghostface.
Oh yeah, and that's actually what happened in Scream 6.
Because throughout the movie, it was funny just watching Ghostface. Because whereas these other two will just like they'll stand there and then you'll look and then they'll get closer and then you'll run and then you'll look back. They're getting closer,
right?
And it's like there's almost like that force in nature that you can't do anything about. Ghostface, he ain't like that. Ghostface will get on your ass. Like he will run. He'll jump. He'll do the most to try. So he behaves in a much more human manner.
But I do like how he's kind of incompetent. Well, because he gets away with a lot of killing. So I won't say incompetent as if he's bad, but I like the fact that he does stumble over himself to show that these are
real people.
Like these are kids essentially.
Yeah, and I really like that.
Or teenagers. Yeah, these are teenagers essentially. So I did like that because one of my favorite characters in this movie was Matthew Lillard as Stu.
For sure,
because Matthew Lillard is one of my favorite horror icons, horror actors of all time.
Yeah,
he was like Five Nights at Freddy's was trash, but he was the best part of it. The few minutes that he was in there,
for sure.
So seeing him kind of be himself throughout the whole movie was funny to me.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, with Ghostface, I really like how, like you said, he stumbles over himself. When he gets hit, he actually reacts. So it kind of shows that this is an actual person. This isn't just some entity.
Right, exactly.
This isn't just a force of nature. This is the actual human person that's capable of being hurt, that's capable of feeling pain. And you see that like throughout the movie whenever like I think towards the end when they're having like the party.
Yeah.
And I think Sydney, she's running away and she shuts the door behind her on Ghostface and it hits him and he falls.
Right, yeah. And I'm like, why are y'all running from this dude? Like, fight him. Like,
facts. Like, it's funny to watch because it's just like I said, he's not imperfect. He's not perfect. He's very susceptible to getting hit. There's a scene where Sydney's best friend, when she's about to get killed, when she's in the garage or whatever.
Oh man, that was harsh.
Yeah, and she's running around and she actually grabs beer and she throws it at him and hits him,
Right,
down here
right.
in the face.
That's why I'm gonna keep saying, fight back. This dude ain't strong. Like, I would have folded it. That movie would have ended in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, do you want to play a game? All right. Yeah. I got you. What I guess I went with you, bro. Come on.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, I got a knife. Bam! Just sit your ass down, motherfucker.
But yeah. So I definitely give praise where it's due for the portrayal of Ghostface and the way he was done. But yeah, also Sydney and Gail and their performances and bringing these characters to life. You really do believe Sydney as this person that's been traumatized by the death of her mother the previous year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and you see that she's very much withdrawn. She's away. She's not really social like the rest of her peers.
Right.
And it's like seeing that I feel like that's a relatable thing for a lot of teens. They feel like they don't fit in, they don't belong.
Right.
And so she did a really good job of sort of showcasing that, and just her intelligence and just her ability to assess what's going on made her very, very intriguing to watch. It was really interesting to watch her try to guess who the killer was.
Right.
Like how she accuses even her boyfriend, which of course ends up being true to a degree.
Right. I saw, like, as soon as he walked through that window after the first scene, I'm like, he's the killer.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, ain't no way he's not the killer.
Definitely. But yeah, it's just stuff like that really, it makes you relate to her and you really want to see her succeed. Again, like I said, the performances in terms of the comedy is great. I really enjoy how meta the movie is and how it makes references to horror movies and horror movie cliches to the point to where they're even watching Halloween at that party. And they kind of like in real time, they find a way to, I guess, sort of, how should I say, Halloween as it's running, and you have the one friend, he's explaining the rules of the horror genre, and what's being portrayed in the movie and what he's saying is running parallel to what's happening in the actual house in the movie.
Right, yeah, I noticed that.
And I thought that was a really, really clever touch. That was a really, really just clever way of acknowledging the horror genre while also kind of still doing it. Because at the end of the day, the movie does adhere to a lot of the cliches it's making fun of and referencing, but it does in a way to where it subverts it and it's clever. And I really do see how Scream has established itself so well, because it really isn't quite like any other horror movie. In my opinion,
it's not.
It's really all these years before and since. There's never really been anything quite like Scream. It really has its own. Now, obviously, there's been people who have been inspired by it, but it really all these years still has its own identity. Even with Scream 5 and Scream 6 that we saw last year, we really see the spirit of Wes Craven's direction and his vision of the franchise be continued, because they still do reference horror movies. They still do reference sequels. They still reference reboots and things like that. Right. So I really thought that was really cool to see all these years later, the spirit of the original still being held up.
Like, the first time I watched a Scream movie was last year when we watched Scream 6. So to be honest, this movie really okay, I'm sorry, let me restart. After watching Scream 6, they mentioned how, like, Billy Loomis in this movie, is a part of a whole family of, I guess, killers, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, it makes me kind of want to watch all the other ones just for the lore.
For sure. And that's one thing I really do like about these movies, too, is how it establishes its own lore, in the sense that you have the Stab movies. I think they mention them a lot. Yep. And how those movies have gone on to have a bunch of sequels, parallel with how Scream itself had a bunch of sequels. Right. And they kind of acknowledged throughout the franchise as it ran, okay, we're kind of, following in the same footsteps of these movies. Right. And we're kind of getting to a point to where you could argue that, how many times can you do the same thing? But they find a way every single time to kind of acknowledge it and play it up in a smart and clever and funny way. So yeah, that's the biggest positive for me with Scream.
Right.
And also, like I said, the characters, not just Sydney, not just Gail, but Dewey. David Arquette
Dewey was
is
cool.
Dewey. I really do like him. I really feel like he's very likable. He's very noble. He's very earnest. He's very sincere, as opposed to a lot of the other guys around that are just stereotypical, just nerd, or not nerd, just corner jerk, high school.
Sleaze bag type of people. Like, they just like, bro, I can't wait. Never mind, but you get it.
He's like sort of a big brother-ish sort of figure to Sydney, because Sydney is best friends with his sister.
Okay,
so, you see he's very protective and he's very noble. He's the type, because he's a cop.
Again, a deputy.
Yeah, and he wants to do right in the position. He wants to do right to help people. And his relationship with Gail and how that blossoms and that blooms felt very natural, organic. I really like that.
Until Scream 6.
Yeah. But we haven't got that far yet. Maybe next year.
One thing,
or maybe what, 5 years from now?
Yeah. One thing, another positive I have for this movie, that no black people die in it.
Because there are no black people in it. So I mean,
I'm kind of
make of that what you will.
I'm kind of happy that they ain't in it. Like, to be honest, like,
hey,
if you know, you know. Like, you know what I'm saying. But nah, I mean, what can I say, man? It really is a classic. I see why it's a classic, though.
It's such a classic, and it's the type of movie where it's like no matter what year, Halloween, I feel like it is a must.
Right. It holds up to this day.
Yeah, and it's become
really
so,
well.
Like I said, not to cut you off, it's become so indelible to Halloween just as a holiday. It's just so endearing. It's just so iconic. The Ghostface mask is one of the most recognizable in all of just fictional history, in my opinion.
Facts.
It's just when you see it, you know exactly what it is. Right. Not everybody can name a character from Scream, but everybody knows Ghostface. Everybody knows the mask.
Exactly.
And I think Wes Craven, deserves all the respect and the credit that he did earn with this movie. And it was just he truly was a trailblazer with this movie. He really
timeless.
Put a timeless movie together, and really a timeless franchise, because Scream as a franchise is only getting bigger. Like I said, Scream 5 was a huge success. It was a huge success. Scream 5 was a huge success. Scream 6 was also an even bigger success at the box office. Right. Domestically, I think it was the highest grossing Scream movie ever made. Now, what they do with 7, I don't know, because the actresses both quit. Jenna Ortega she quit in solidarity with her co-star, whose name escapes me at the time, but yeah.
Right, but I don't really got nothing else to say about it. Just a classic movie. I see why a lot of people love it.
I would highly recommend it to get into the Halloween spirit. It's, like I said, it's perfect. It's just a perfect horror movie. It's a perfect Halloween movie. And for that, I give it a flawless victory.
Okay. I give it heat, but high heat though. Like borderline on a flawless victory. Okay. Yeah, I just didn't love it as much as everybody else does.
I feel like sometimes when you have something that's this hyped up and this well renowned, you kind of build it up in your mind. So I get where you're coming from.
Right. Yeah. It just really like overall, like, I'm not a big Halloween guy, but it just wasn't really for me. Like,
I feel that, but
I enjoyed it though. Yeah, like that's why it's not a flawless victory for me, because I didn't. For something to be a flawless victory, I gotta love it.
Yeah, no, understandably so. I get it.
But yeah, man, that's all I got to say, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say as well. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Yeah.
Y'all be safe out there.
Yes, sir.
I know y'all be outside, because I'll be seeing y'all.
Yep.
Yep. On Snapchat, of course. I don't be out there with y'all. No, never that.
Yeah, nah. What?
Anyways.
Yeah, I've been Jay.
And this has been Rodney.
Me at LATD. Remember, y'all, look at the details.
Yes, sir. And be on the lookout for part 2 of the Spooktacular next year. We're going to be bigger and we're going to be better. This is going to be a growing thing that we're going to continue. So look forward to this every single year. And
God bless. Y'all be safe. Peace.